Welcome to the Reparenting Daily podcast. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into reparenting, exploring tools and resources to help us through our journey. The podcast is divided into 3 sections. First is a reading. Second is a discussion of the reading followed by a journal prompt. And the last section is a peaceful meditation for closing. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whenever and wherever you're joining us. Thanks for being here for another day of reparenting. We're on day 135 now. I'd just like to thank you again for being here, taking some time, and if you can, just to support the podcast and the project, if you can give me a like and subscribe, maybe some comments and interaction, how you're finding the content on wherever you're following. So yeah, just give me a 5-star review or comment, a like, a follow. Anything would be helpful just to help more people find this project so we can work on continuing to build this community. That being said, today we're going to read from Homecoming by John Bradshaw. This is from chapter 1. How your wounded inner child contaminates your life. The person, in the gripping of an old distress, says things that are not pertinent, does things that don't work, fails to cope with the situation, and endures terrible feelings that have nothing to do with the present. Harvey Jackins. I couldn't believe I could be so childish. I was 40 years old, and I had raged and screamed until everyone, my wife, my stepchildren, and my son, was terrified. Then I got in my car and left them. There I was, sitting all alone in a motel in the middle of our vacation on Padre Island. I felt very alone and ashamed. When I tried to trace the events that led up to my leaving, I couldn't figure out anything. I was confused. It was like waking up from a bad dream. More than anything, I wanted my family to be warm, loving, and intimate. But this was the 3rd year I had blown up on our vacation. I had gone away emotionally before, but I had never gone away physically. It was as if I'd gone in an altered state of consciousness. God, I hated myself. What was the matter with me? The incident on Padre Island occurred in 1976, the year after my father died. Since then, I've learned the causes of my rage and withdrawal cycles. The major clue came to me on Padre Island runaway. The major clue came to me on the Padre Island runaway. So just reread that part. While I sat alone and ashamed in the crummy motel room, I began to have vivid memories of my childhood. I remembered one Christmas Eve, when I was about 11, lying in my darkened room with the covers pulled over my head and refusing to speak to my father. He had come home late, mildly drunk. I wanted to punish him for ruining our Christmas. I could not verbally express my anger, since I had been taught to do so was one of the most deadly sins, and especially deadly in regard to a parent. Over the years, my anger festered in the mildew of my soul. Like a hungry dog in the basement, it became ravenous and turned into rage. Most of the time, I guarded it vigilantly. I was a nice guy. I was the nicest daddy you'd ever seen, until I couldn't take it anymore. Then I became Ivan the Terrible. When I came to understand was that these vacation behaviors were spontaneous age regressions. When I was raging and punishing my family with withdrawal, I was regressing into my childhood, where I swallowed my anger and expressed it the only way a child could, in punishing withdrawal. Now, as an adult, when I was finished with an emotional or physical withdrawal bout, I felt like the lonesome and shamesome little boy I had been. What I now understand is that when a child's development is arrested, when feelings are repressed, especially the feelings of anger and hurt, A person grows up to be an adult with an angry, hurt child inside of him. This child will spontaneously contaminate the person's adult behavior. At first, it may seem preposterous that a little child can continue to live in an adult body. But that is exactly what I'm suggesting. I believe that this neglect, wounded inner child of the past is the major source of human misery. Until we reclaim and champion that child, he will continue to act out and contaminate our lives, our adult lives. I like mnemonic formulas, so I'll describe some of the ways the wounded inner child contaminates our lives using the word contaminate. Each letter stands for a significant way in which the inner child sabotages adult life. At the end of this chapter, you will find a questionnaire to help you ascertain how badly your own inner child was wounded. C. This is the anagram for contamination, and this is the end of the section. C stands for codependence. O stands for offender behaviors. N stands for narcissistic disorders. T stands for trust issues. A stands for acting out, acting in behaviors. M stands for magical beliefs. I stands for intimacy dysfunction. N stands for non-disciplined behaviors. A stands for compulsive behaviors. T stands for thought distortions. And E stands for emptiness, apathy, and depression. This is the anagram for contamination, which is the word that he will use to describe in this book how the wounded inner child affects our adult life in the present. Thank you, and that's the reading for today. Welcome back. This is a really excellent book. I do encourage you to seek this out if you're not familiar with it. It's called Homecoming by John Bradshaw. He has a televised, I think it's a PBS special that you can find, or a series, I should say, that you can find on YouTube and also online if you just search that. It's available for free. I think this is coming from, if I'm not mistaken, the late 80s or early 90s. I think maybe it's the late 80s. But so it's a little bit old, but I think it was one of the first pieces of work of its kind to be publicized and, shared on a mass public network. I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure that's what is the case. In any case, it's a really important piece of literature and a really important set of tools and processes, in case you haven't heard of it. And so today we talked about the wounded inner child and how those childhood wounds impact your adult life in the present, your decisions, your emotions, your behaviors. All of these things can be impacted by your childhood abuse or neglect or whatever you happen to go through as a child that left you with trauma and consequent developmental arrests. And those tend to lead to more trauma, which is why some people end up stuck in a trauma cycle. And so it's very important that we learn how to address this wounded inner child, but first we need to make sure that we have a good understanding and really be continuously searching, because it's like never-ending peeling of the onion to uncover new reasons or understandings for things in your life, right? And so you might have an awareness of how your inner child sabotages you in friendships because of past experiences, but you might not see how that then impacts your financial situation or your work environment. So in that sense, it takes continuous investigation So today, let's reflect on how aware and in touch are you with your wounded inner child. When you take some time to reflect, to meditate, to go inward and journal, however it is to connect with your inner child, how does that part of you respond? How does the inner child respond? And when you are going to that inner child, do they respond differently when they are feeling wounded versus when they are feeling happy and with joy? Have you taken time to notice the difference of when you turn to yourself? Do you normally turn to yourself more when you are having a positive inner child experience or when you are in the negative inner child experience? And lastly, think about what you can do going forward to support your inner child, the wounded inner child in particular. How can you give them signs of safety to show that it's okay to trust you, that you will be there, and that you will not abandon them, neglect them, or abuse them as others have done in the past? As always, thank you for being here. Take care of yourself and be well. And now, let us move on to the final section, the meditation. This is an unguided meditation. I will simply provide some music and you can take some time to relax. Please feel free to choose a location and a place where you feel safe and where you can be undisturbed for the next 10 minutes. You can choose to be sitting down, standing, as you like, wherever you are most comfortable. Thank you for being here and enjoy the meditation.